So I made a claim that Hades 2 as a game is a quintessential concept of what it means for a sequel to improve on its predecessor, and actually surpasses in so many ways. Whereas I still believe that statement, but it looks like Ghost of Yotei also does that in the AAA department that I really wasn't expecting, and I'm happy that I'm wrong with what I thought about from Ghost of Yotei. When a game like Ghost of Tsushima released, I had just finished playing AC Odyssey, which in my opinion is one of the better open world Assassin's Creed games to date. But Ghost of Tsushima did something I never thought would be possible at the time, making Ubisoft's checklist open world better and perfectly to a T. The side quest in Tsushima was its weakest part, but the open world activities were more streamlined and it didn't feel like you were doing busy work just for the fun of it. So it's by no surprise when I'm just as addicted as I was with Tsushima in Ghost of Yotei, as I get the same enjoyment from playing this game like I did when I first played its predecessor. But apart from this and many more points I will touch on in this video, I think Ghost of Yotei represents how a sequel perfects the formula of its original while keeping it fresh to play as its own game. So without further ado, people, let's get into what makes Ghost of Yotei a phenomenal game. Men and women of culture, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome to the channel. It's great to have you here. If this isn't your first time and you're a returning viewer, welcome back, kings and queens. Thank you guys for watching the video. Thanks for subscribing. It helps with the algorithm. Thanks for liking. Thanks for sharing. Now, without further ado, because I just don't want to just spill a garbage or whatever, let's hop into the Ghost of Yotei review and why I think it's one of my personal Game of the Year games of this year. We will get to that in a bit. Let's start with the ugly. The plot progression in Ghost of Tsushima was a weak part of its offering. While the concept of a samurai going against everything he's taught to overcome a new enemy sounded interesting, the execution for most of it fell off with the spacing issues and also a lack of oomph at certain parts. Not to say that there weren't moments of greatness at certain points in the story, but I just find Ghost of Yotei's story to be pretty predictable as it's also a tale of revenge, and the moral of the story being revenge is bad, which sounds very similar to another game in Sony's offering. If you know, you know. While that isn't what most people want to hear when they play a samurai/Japanese western epic for 20 plus hours or so, I will say that as a character, Atsu is more intriguing to me than Jin from the original game. You see, Jin represented the idea of what it was to be a samurai, being the law-abiding citizen all his life, just to unlearn everything to overcome a threat to his land. For the sake of this video, and in simpler terms, it just felt like the story of a good boy doing bad things to win. Whereas Atsu as a character is flawed and only driven by her sense of justice of killing the Yotei 6 for destroying her family. While the central narrative, in all fairness, for this is predictable, I just think that the portrayal of the character from Erika Ishii, who was more to my taste as there were moments of development that Atsu faced, when doing side quests that flesh out her character and talking to NPCs. I also think it's pretty much my bias towards more flawed characters, as one of my favorite superheroes in all time is Daredevil. And if you know anything about Matt Murdock, that man is a mess, but he is a lovable mess. Now, let's get to the meat and potatoes and the real good things about why this game, and I am telling you guys, is probably considered one of the best games I've played in this year. And that has to do with this open world. I'll just flat out say, this is one of the best open worlds that I have experienced in a game. Playing this game and just experiencing what this world had to offer in Ezo gave me flashbacks of experiencing worlds like Breath of the Wild and Red Dead Redemption 2. The art design and look of this world has to be the best looking thing we have in 2025. From the leaves falling to the floor, to the incredible vistas you get from Mount Yotei, to the jaw distance of the mountains and forests in the game, made it an easy winner for its visuals. The best part of this open world isn't just its visual presentation, it's also the dynamic impact of this world and how it feels lived in when exploring, which I thought Sucker Punch had already perfected in Ghost of Tsushima, but it just went an extra level with what this world has to offer. It also helps that the side quests in this game are more fleshed out and are really interesting to tackle on, which was a very weak point of Tsushima. Now, what I'm about to say might be considered as heresy to some people, but please play this game with the Watanabe mode on. The Watanabe mode being the lo-fi mode that you all saw in the trailers, and honestly this might be the best definition of a cozy action game because of the lo-fi music playing in the background. You still get moments in the game when they play the OSC from the game in pivotal moments of the story, but when it comes to just interacting with the world during an exploration session or just fighting enemies, the lo-fi soundtrack changes with whatever you're doing at the time. It's definitely a mode that most people are probably sleeping on, and honestly speaking, it's probably one of the best modes I've seen added to a game just for the fun of it. Now, Speaking of the combat, how does Ghost of Yotei improve on the stellar combat from Ghost of Tsushima? Now, with the combat of Ghost of Yotei, it's very similar to Ghost of Tsushima in regards to it's more of like a rock, paper, scissors kind of mechanic in regards to the different type of weapons you have to go against the different type of enemies. So, in Ghost of Tsushima, it was more so a matter of stance going against certain enemies. They have replaced the impact of stances with what we now call different weapons. So, the Odachi is what you use for fighting brute enemies. You know, these big brutes, for example. The katana works well with the katana. The yari works well with people who have dual katanas or sickles. The kusarigama, see how I almost started with just saying kusarigama. The kusarigama works with people who are using poles. So, you know, like your yari and all those sorts of things. And then you then have, no, sorry, scratch that. The kusarigama works against enemies who have shields. And also you then have your guns, you then have your kunais, you then have your different elements in this game, your bombs. And honestly speaking, there's nothing I can say about the combats in this game that Ghost of Tsushima didn't do. The only thing Ghost of Yotei does is that it perfects it. When playing as Atsu, just because of the aggression, her attitude towards just killing all these guys, it is incredible. There is another mode in this game called the Mikkei mode, which adds more visual impact to the mod and also to the blood mechanics of this game. And honestly speaking, this game is heat with this mode on. I had to turn it off because it was like, okay, this is just too much for me. And I'm not, see, I watched The Boys. I'm a big fan of The Boys. I'm a big fan of Invincible. We all know when it comes to gore, I don't sleep on. But in my head, I'm like, this is fine, but let's turn it down a notch. But honestly speaking, in terms of the combat of this game, it's incredible. It's probably one of the best action combats, mechanics, systems you're probably going to get in a game like this, especially in an open world game whereby the combat isn't usually the best parts of said open world games. It's usually the exploration, it's usually the atmosphere, the world building of the games that usually goes a longer when it comes to open world games. Whereas in Ghost of Yotei, combat slaps, music slaps, art visual design slaps. So essentially, what is the worst part of this game? And when I'm talking about Ghost of Yotei, I'm thinking about a game that, in terms of an original to a sequel, similar to what we had with Spider-Man 1 going into Spider-Man 2, where people were like, okay, Spider-Man 2 doesn't do a lot different from Spider-Man 1. And while I do agree with that, I still enjoy Spider-Man 2. Ghost of Yotei falls in that similar spot with Ghost of Tsushima, whereby if you play Ghost of Tsushima, you know what you're going to expect from Ghost of Yotei. But I do think if you're someone like me, who's gone out of their way not to play as many open world games that do come out every single time during the year, I do think you're going to enjoy Ghost of Yotei for just that fresh breath of air of just exploring the world in the different formats, the dynamic elements of this world. And when I say dynamic elements, I'm not talking about what we saw in Borderlands 4, for example, where I was like, oh hey, you get world events, open world events, wow. No, I'm talking more so events that make sense and that give you a great reward at the end of it. And when the story of the side quests are better than what it was in Ghost of Tsushima, it's still not up to the level of, say, a Witcher 3, for example, but it's good enough that it makes sense for you to take on the side quests. And honestly speaking, in terms of this game, the reason why I think this game for me is a solid nominee for Game of the Year is I don't usually platinum my games. I'm not a trophy hunter, a platinum chaser, an achievement hunter, whatever. But this is one of the few games that I'm this close to getting the platinum. And the only thing I have left is just pretty much finding up all the collectibles and stuff like that. So, in short, this game, in my opinion, is an easy recommend. I understand why people are console gamers, and this comes from someone who was a console gamer, because honestly speaking, when it comes to console gaming, if you can get a game like this that costs you $700, you don't have to alter any of the adjustments, make any graphical settings or improvements whatsoever, and just sit back and enjoy the game for what it is. I do understand why people enjoy console gaming, and I have no shame with people who enjoy console gaming. Like, you guys do you, you guys do good. Performance of this game has been exceptional, it's been great. It's a first-party PlayStation game. This is why we like this first-party PlayStation games. It goes a long way. They go a long way with ensuring that the game is polished, it's up to snuff, and it is good. You know you're going to get a good sort of experience from this game. And so, Ghost of Yotei, in conclusion, is a phenomenal game. It's an easy recommend. It's not a game you should sleep on. It's not a game you have to wait a couple of months for patches or whatsoever. The game comes in fresh and it comes in nice. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hope to hear from you soon. And what do you think about Ghost of Yotei? Do you like the Ghost of Tsushima series? Are you looking forward to Ghost of Yotei? If you're not looking forward to Ghost of Yotei, why not? Thank you guys for watching the video. I hope to hear from you soon. I'm gonna see you on the next one. Stay sexy, stay active. Peace.